Hey Geiger, what you doing?
Hello people! Today I just wanted to do a video about one of my favorite members of my bug family, probably one of the most unusual members of my bug family, and that is Geiger, my Vinegaroon or whiptail scorpion, whatever you guys want to call him. As the name suggests, he is part of the whip scorpion family, alongside another, well, I wouldn't call them famous, but another unusual looking critter that is often referred to as the tailless whip scorpion or the tailless whip spider. And despite their name, they are neither a scorpion nor a spider. They are completely their own little thing. They got their own thing going on in the arachnid family. And today I just want to talk about, about these unusual little critters and how to keep them. Now, you need a sizable enclosure, like pretty much an enclosure you would probably use for a scorpion, but you want one that can hold in humidity because Vinegaroons need a reasonably high amount of humidity, probably like 70 or 80%. And that'll help in a container such as this with a solid top to hold it in. And the water bowl over here will help, along with some reasonably not wet, but pretty, misted down substrate that is not too dry. And I also have some sphagnum moss over here. Also helps really well with holding humidity. Now these guys are, I believe they are the only ones in their family that can be found in the US. The giant Vinegaroons. They can be found in places like from Arizona to Florida, the southern parts of the US. And they're also found in Mexico. And they are, I wouldn't say they're avid burrowers. They do like to dig. Geiger here has dug up several places over here, and this is his favorite spot to dig. He loves digging over here. But he spends pretty much all of his time in this particular hide. This is where he is currently. We'll bother him later. And that's also what you should have, are hides, because they're very shy animals. They're very secretive. They only come out at night. They are nocturnal, strictly nocturnal. And I have two hides here because, it gives him an option as to where he wants to go. He doesn't use this one as often, but he'll use it if he's wandering around and I open the container and this is the closest place that they'll get to. He uses this most often. And it's very simple upkeep, like just a couple of hides for them to spend the day into. And if you prefer not to use hides, you need to have a substrate that is deep enough for them to make a burrow into, because you don't want them getting stressed out, always being exposed. Although Geiger here, he can't really tell the difference between inside his hide and outside his hide because of this top. So when he comes up to a more elevated spot over here, he'll feel the top and he'll think that he's still in an enclosed hiding spot. So sometimes during the day I'll see him sleeping out in the open because he thinks that he's hiding, but he's not actually hiding. They don't have very good eyesight. They're pretty much completely, well, I wouldn't call it completely blind, but they can only differentiate between light and dark. So, pretty much blind. The Vinegaroon is actually a pretty docile animal. They're not venomous. They don't really bite. I've never heard of anybody who's been bitten by one. They don't really pinch. I've also never heard anybody being pinched by a Vinegaroon. What they do have for their defense is that they are able to puff out a mist of what I would describe as concentrated vinegar. And when they feel threatened, you'll be able to smell the vinegar from them as sort of a warning before they start spraying. And that acid is actually powerful enough to destroy the exoskeleton of other invertebrates. So if something like, I don't know, a centipede or something, or a spider or something were to threaten a Vinegaroon, that spray will be doing a lot of damage to their exoskeletons. It'll like soften them up, and they'll be way more vulnerable to the Vinegaroons if the Vinegaroon decides to fight back in a physical manner. But their primary defense is that acid, and it's pretty much harmless to humans. Some people will be more sensitive to it, probably like get a rash or if you're allergic to it, but that's not really a common thing to be affected. But it is something to keep in mind that you may or may not be allergic or sensitive to this spray. You'll probably find out pretty quickly. But like I said, despite their appearance, they're actually fairly docile with being handled. And Geiger here, he's a little bit on the defensive side. He doesn't spray. I've never been sprayed by him, but he'll put up a defensive pose whilst he's in the midst of running away. But as soon as I pick him up, he's completely fine. I like to give personality to my pets, and I think his personality is a grumpy hermit. We're actually going to pick him up. I try to keep handling to a minimum because, I don't like stressing out my animal. He doesn't particularly like being handled, but he'll tolerate it. But for the sake of this video, I'll go ahead and give you guys a look at him.
Hi, buddy.
Now you see the...
Hey, buddy, it's okay. Shh. It's okay, you're fine.
So as you can see, now that he's out in the open, you'll see these two modified legs that he has.
There we go. See, you're fine.
You see these two modified legs that he has. They're not antennae, but they are specialized as such. They are often mistaken as insects because people see, oh, it's got 6 legs and it's got these feelers. It has to be an insect. No, it's an arachnid, and these are actually specialized front legs. And you can think of it like a blind man's cane. They use it to feel around their environment, and I believe they can sense and taste through it. Same with this whiptail that they have over here. This is also a sensory organ, and they also use this to sense their environment. And this is his main attack weapon, these pedipalps right here. Instead of using venom like actual scorpions or spiders, they use brute strength. The strength of these pedipalps is amazing. Pretty much anything that gets caught in these will be crushed. You can think of it as like him hugging them to death with spines impaling into the prey's body. And while he's holding them there, pretty much crushed and impaled on his spines of his pedipalps, he'll start chewing at them and, eating them. Last night, I gave him a roach, and hey, buddy, you want to go back down? I'll let you back down. Everybody's got to look at you anyway. But yesterday, I gave him a roach, and I'll probably put in a clip of what he did to that roach. I managed to capture the roach again, because he failed again, but not before he managed to deal quite a bit of damage on the poor thing. It took quite a bit of time because he was He was taking his sweet time with that roach. Go back into hiding. There you go. He doesn't like the light. So it's pretty rare to ever see him in my videos. So savor it because it's not something that'll happen often. He is very secretive. But anyway, I gave him a roach yesterday, and that's all that remains of it over there. And it was weird because he was interested enough to crush it and do some damage to it, but at the same time, he was in no hurry to actually kill it or eat it. So it was quite something. And it ended up where he was giving the roach a piggyback ride into this. And I pretty much left him alone for the rest of the night. And this is all that is left of that roach. They don't really require much food, actually. Some people will say to feed them once a week. Some people will feed them once a month. The Vinegaroon is perfectly fine with either. They can go for very long periods of time without eating. They have also been known to disappear for long periods of time. I've heard of one Vinegaroon that went into hiding and didn't come out for 9 months. Yeah, that kind of thing. What I do personally, I feed him a roach like this, like every 2 weeks. And every week I give him a small mealworm as like a little snack. But his actual meal, I feed him once every 2 weeks. And like I said, they're perfectly fine with that diet. They've been built to go long periods of time without eating. And like I said, they're very secretive animals, so they'll be disappearing for long periods of time. This guy already had a thing of disappearing for 1 week on me. So yeah, that's basic Vinegaroon care. Just a tub, moist substrate, water dish, 2 hides. They're very docile, relatively slow moving, pretty much harmless unless you're sensitive to the vinegar spray that they secrete when they're defensive. They don't eat much, and they will go long periods of time. They're very secretive animals. The only time I ever see him is when I randomly wake up in the middle of the night, and I'll be seeing him doing his thing. And that's basically it. They're wonderful pets. I love them. Geiger is one of my favorites of my bug family. And they live for a reasonable amount of time. This is a pretty long-lived invertebrate, which is a pretty nice change considering that some of my others, like my jumping spider, who will sadly only be with us for a few months before he passes. But those few months will be amazing, I'm sure. So, and then there was my mantis, who only lived like 1 year, which is the average mantis lifespan. My assassin bug, probably 1 or 2 years. This guy will be with me for quite a long time. So yeah, that's basically it. And thanks for watching, and savor that view of Geiger because we're pretty much never going to be getting any shots of him doing anything. I wish I could do a feeding video of him, but that's not going to happen. All right. Thank you for watching.